Nada, and I am an MSN student with ECPI University, and we are going to talk today about our graduate project. And I am in the education track, and my graduate project, I'm throwing around some ideas that has to do with Medicare education, and Medicare reform. So there's a lot of teaching that needs to be done for the families of elderly people. In the year 2030, Medicare is going to be practically exhausted, and that is the time that I'm going to be needing it. So I want to make sure that it's going to be there. So I want to try and get involved in some legislation and just do a little bit of that. But also, because I have done case management in the hospitals, a lot of families don't understand what Medicare pays for, what they don't pay for, what inpatient, outpatient means. A lot of them don't look at the Medicare handbook manual because there's a lot of information in there that they just don't understand. So I would like to try and find some kind of way to simplify it, and for when patients are, when they enter into the hospital, that that there could be some kind of brochure explaining Medicare to the families, because it's a real shock to the families when someone needs to be, you know, sent to a skilled nursing facility, or if they didn't meet criteria, they have to go home with home health care, and that's a big burden on a lot of families. So I just want to do whatever I can to help people understand that. I don't know what else to say right now, but I hope that's a start. Like I said, I hope to get into the legislation and maybe, you know, help do some kind of reform, you know, with everything that's going on. So
That's great.
I know I haven't taken up all my time, but I can add later.
Not a problem. Well, I'm Kendra Mickens, also in the MSN program here at ECPI Online. Like Donata, I too am in the education track. I've tossed around a couple things in looking at the list of suggestions for a graduate project. My first choice would probably be to work or develop the simulation. I get to see the potential for high fidelity simulation as it relates to education for nursing students, but I know for our location we don't have a lot of people who are trained to do the simulations. While any of us can do it, it's just with teaching classes and right now also doing some clinicals, we don't really get to spend as much time as we would like with it. So I know I, for one, would now have a real primary reason to spend more time in the high fidelity simulation lab and to really learn what the different simulation mannequins can do, the different scenarios, especially since I've gone over things like diabetes. When we did have someone who was over our simulation lab, I know they were able to do things like put the mannequin in DKA and have the students recognize that. I think it is definitely an advantage to have students, before they actually deal with the real life scenario, look at the little things that I feel they missed in changes in vital signs, maybe looking at lab values. So again, I definitely see the value in the simulation labs, and I wish that they were around when I was in school, but we didn't have high fidelity simulation labs when I was in school. We had a mannequin, but it didn't do anything. It didn't breathe. It didn't have vital signs. So I would like to learn more about that. And then looking at some of the backups, maybe doing a clinical setting with an RN group. I do clinicals now, so that wouldn't really be a stretch for me. And I also looked at turning in and writing an article for submission into a journal. My only drawback with that is I know my preceptor that I find for my graduate project would have to be well versed in that, so I had to find someone who's done that. I think I can definitely find people who have experience with our simulation lab or different simulation labs here in Charlotte, but it's just finding a person who I know has been published would be my concern, which probably if I ask, there's probably plenty of people, I just haven't asked. So those are my thoughts for a graduate project.
That sounds really interesting, because I really like the simulations that I see in the Centera School of Nursing, which is right next to where I work. And there's so much out there that I think they need more of a hands-on, and when they have actual, you know, mannequins and that can do the simulations, I think it really helps. Can you guys see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and you can see each other, right?
Yes.
Right.
Because you guys are flashing in and out on me, so.
Yes, whoever primarily dominates the conversation is typically who is on the main screen.
Yes.
Okay.
So my name is Viola. Are you good? Can I go now?
Oh,
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Viola Pierce. I'm in the MSN program at ECPI. I'm in the leadership track.
Hey, Viola, hold on. I'm having technical difficulties. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Donata. Oh, Viola, it looks like you're muted.
God, I feel so bad. Did she hear? Does she know that yet?
You still look like you're muted, like you're on our big picture, but your little picture, you're off, and it has the microphone with the mute slash through it.
I don't know. Shoot, I don't know what's going on. Okay, are you there now?
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're back in business.
Sweet.
I'm sorry.
You're fine. So my name is Viola Williams. Viola Pierce. I've not, my husband's now looking at me like I'm crazy. We've been married for a couple of months, and so, you know, my old name is just kind of coming out all the time. Anyway, so I am in the leadership track, and it's a huge concern for me because I love the fact that we are educating because we need to educate, and I think that it is the best thing in the world that we are educating. The problem, though, is I think that we also need to educate the leaders. What happens is that we have a lot of tasks or a lot of hands-on information that is coming out, and we really, really want to have that hands-on and information that's coming out. For example, I work in the ED. I've been working in the ED for the last 13 years, and so I really, we do a lot of tasks. We do a lot of IV starting. We do a lot of intubations. We do a lot of, NG tube insertions. So, what we do is we take these nurses who are great at all these tasky things, and then we place them in leadership. And placing them in leadership sometimes is not always the best thing. I think that just because you're a good nurse doesn't mean you're a good leader. And I think that we have to educate the leader in order to be able to lead, because, leadership is probably about 80% about, people skills as much as it is about tasky skills. And so that is, that's my passion. And so that's what I would like for my MSN project to be about. I would like for it to be about taking care of the leaders, educating them on how to do things. We have so many initiatives that are, coming out. Like we have the sepsis initiative. We have we have all our core measures that are coming through. And so, we're all about getting our times right, our QMIs. We have to do certain things within certain time limits. But at the same time, once you do that, then you need to be able to take care of the people who are doing all these things. And so, because of all the, because there's certain things that you kind of have to know. For me, for example, I've been a nurse for 23 years, and so when I go into a patient's room, or whenever I go into a patient, for example, if I'm starting an IV on a child, which I do a lot. Sometimes you have those parents that are breathing down your neck, and they're like, well, you got to get it on the first try. We need to be able to coach these nurses and be able to give them the ability to say to these parents, we may not get it on the first try. Our goal is to do that. But at the same time, I'm here to take care of your child, and starting IVs on children is hard. And so that may not be the case. And I think what's happening is we're going into these rooms, these people breathing down their necks. I mean, they breathe down my neck, and sometimes I'm scared. But they breathe down their necks, and then all of a sudden they are, they're scared, and they're so intimidated by the people that come in. And so we need to be able to coach them up and say, this may be what happens when you go into that room. This is how you need to handle it. This is what you need to do. Be able to take care of our nurses, because if we don't take care of the nurses not be able to take care of the patients. And so, I have a real passion. I love John C. Maxwell. He's a leadership guru, and I love all of his videos. I love all of his talks. And I would just like to find, someone in nursing that is a leadership guru, that can help on the side of nursing. I think that he has very good material, and I probably will use a lot of his material to try to go there. But that is what I would like for my MSN project to be about, because I think that a lot of times, nurses are traditionally, they're young. And that shouldn't be, because when you eat your young, then what happens is that they're not able to survive, and so that's huge for me. And so that's my spiel.
Yeah, there's a saying that nursing eats their young, and it's because we have so many young ones in nursing that get into managerial positions so quickly without the experience that's there. So be great if we can get some more education in and support them into the leadership positions. That it would be good for some more education, on hands-on education as well.
That is absolutely correct. I think it's very, very pivotal, for you to do that. I became a charge nurse very shortly after I became a nurse, and that's that should. I'm not saying that shouldn't have been, because they had probably not many options there.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like I failed at it miserably, until I figured out how to do it, and I figured out, how to best utilize that resource.
Right.
Until I figured it out, it was a hard, tough journey. So.
Yeah, as a new nurse, when I started, it was charge nurse was rotated. So after you get through your orientation, you could expect to be charge nurse, and then you would have new nurses ask, well, what do you do to become assistant manager? And I would say, apply. I mean, that's what it boiled down to. I mean, you had some of us with good experience who did not want the headache, and then you would have new nurses that were gung-ho who applied, and most often would become assistant nurse managers without the support that they needed. So
That's right. That's right.
Very true.
the things we survive as nurses.
That's right.
Definitely.
That's right.
All right,
I love all your I love the idea of, because it's very confusing to me also. I have a mother that's elderly who's 84 years old, and it's very confusing to me to know exactly what Medicare, Medicaid pays for, so on and so forth. And so it's very, I love the idea of coming up with a brochure that kind of breaks it down to layman's terms, to help us to understand exactly what it does pay for. And in the simulation lab, we have a simulation. We have a guy that we call him Curtis. That's what we call him at our hospital. And so he breathes, and we use him in our mega codes. And so it is a great idea, and it's so funny, to see them. They're like, he stopped breathing. So it's really, really good to have them, because although we run codes all the time, there's some people, there's people on the floor, people in, because we have a psych hospital that's on our site. They don't run codes all the time, and so they need that sort of jolt to help them understand how to run a code and what you do at that time. So it's a great idea.
I think if we prepare the families and the patients when they first come in, that when it comes to the discharge planning and all this happens, that they're not so shocked, and at least they'll know where they can go for questions in regards to Medicare, and it'll be better for the case managers and the nurses as well to know. Just because the doctor wrote an inpatient order doesn't mean they're meeting criteria. So, so important.
Yeah, because you have sometimes people want the family member to stay in the hospital because there's staffing there, and don't understand that they could possibly be more successful at home with home health nursing because the patient feels more comfortable in their home. And the family members have anxiety that they're going to have to do it all, and they don't want to do that. So a lot of room for education, and just what Medicare will cover, because a lot of people don't understand that there's a lot of things in home health Medicare will cover.
That's right.
They just don't know.
Plus, if they stay in the hospital and Medicare says they're ready to go home, the kind of bill they'll end up getting, the financial end, they need to understand that as well.
And I think it's, I think the problem though is that, we have so much change. And so with all this change, we need to be educated on all the change.
Oh yeah.
And change is inevitable. It's the only thing that is very constant. So we just have to roll with that ball and keep it moving.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast. Does anybody else have any questions or anything?
No.
I think we're good.
We're good.
Okay, I'm going to post this on YouTube, and we'll see if it works, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Viola. Thank you, Kendra.
I think you have to email us the link as well.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.